Allo Allo, the iconic British sitcom that tickled audiences from 1982 to 1992, is much more than just a memory today. While its quirky characters and hilarious escapades left an indelible mark on comedy, the lives of its beloved cast members took unexpected and dramatic turns. From tragic accidents to personal struggles, their post-show journeys reveal the ups and downs of life beyond the laughter. Now, in 2025, we uncover where these stars are and how their stories have unfolded, blending nostalgia with thought-provoking twists. Ready to explore the human tales behind the legendary laughs? Let's dive in! Vicky Michelle played Yvette Carte Blanche, the flirtatious waitress with a heart of gold, at the age of 32. Her sultry voice and seductive glances became hallmarks of the series, making her a fan favorite. Now 79, her life beyond the spotlight has been marked by quiet struggles. She married theater producer Alan DeVries in 1978, but their union unraveled after 2 decades, strained by professional jealousy and infidelity. They had one daughter, Celeste, who became estranged from her mother following a bitter custody battle. After Allo Allo, Michelle found it difficult to escape typecasting and endured a series of failed auditions, leading to depression and isolation in her mid-50s. A failed comeback in fringe theater, a costly legal dispute with an ex-agent, and a brief hospitalization following a car accident in 2003 added to her woes. Though she remains active on the occasional panel show or fan convention, Michelle now lives a quiet, reclusive life in a modest flat in Essex. She survives on a small acting pension and residuals. Her current estimated estate is valued at around $450,000, much reduced after years of legal fees and medical expenses. Carmen Silvera portrayed Edith Artois, Renée's loyal yet tone-deaf wife, at the age of 60. Her character's comedic singing and unshakable optimism brought levity to war-torn chaos. Behind her joyful facade, however, Silvera's real life was shadowed by grief and emotional fatigue. She was married to Canadian actor John Linehan, a troubled man who struggled with alcoholism. Their only child, Thomas, tragically died of leukemia at 10. Following her son's death, Silvera threw herself into work, often masking her sorrow behind her on-screen laughter. Her career stalled after Allo Allo, with only minor roles in local theater, leading to financial hardship and bouts of depression. She was diagnosed with lung cancer in 2000 and died 2 years later, alone in a hospice, estranged from most surviving family. Despite her contributions to British television, she died in relative obscurity. At the time of her death in 2002, she was 80 years old and her estate was estimated at just $120,000, mostly from residuals and a small pension. Her funeral was sparsely attended, a quiet farewell to a woman who once made millions laugh. Gordon Kay brought Renée Artois, the beleaguered cafe owner navigating Nazis and lovers, to life at 41. With impeccable comic timing, he became the series' anchor. But Kay's life beyond the laughter was haunted by pain. A serious car accident in 1990 left him with severe head injuries and visible scarring, marking the beginning of his withdrawal from the public eye. He never married, though he was in a long-term relationship with BBC stage manager Philip Harwood, which ended in 1998 after years of tension and secrecy. Kay was estranged from his brother and reportedly battled chronic loneliness. His attempts to revive his career post-Allo Allo failed, and he struggled with memory loss and speech difficulties due to his injuries. He spent his final years in a care home in England, often confused and reclusive. Despite receiving modest royalties, he lived simply. Kay passed away on January 23, 2017, at the age of 75 from heart failure. His estate, valued at approximately $300,000, was left to a close friend and carer, as he had become estranged from most of his family. Richard Marner portrayed Colonel Kurt von Strom, the sly and self-serving German officer, with dry wit and subtle elegance at age 61. Born into Russian nobility, Marner had already seen much tragedy before the show, including fleeing the Bolshevik Revolution as a child. After Allo Allo, he faced dwindling roles and felt increasingly disconnected from the industry. His marriage to German opera singer Helga Weiss ended in 1992 after 35 years due to his emotional distance and obsession with his past. They had 2 sons, Anton and Victor, both of whom became estranged from their father, frustrated by his aloofness and stubborn pride. Marner reportedly became reclusive in his later years, tormented by survivor's guilt and regrets about his distant parenting. He died on March 18, 2004, at the age of 82 from complications of pneumonia, alone in his London flat. At the time of his passing, his estate was modest, estimated at $250,000, comprising his flat and a few scattered royalties. Despite his distinguished appearance, Marner died virtually forgotten, with only a brief obituary acknowledging his career. Guy Sinner, who played Lieutenant Hubert Gruber, was 36 when he brought to life the kind-hearted yet awkward German officer with a penchant for little tanks and sensitive charm. His portrayal was both comedic and deeply human, making Gruber a cult favorite. Off-screen, Sinner struggled with typecasting that severely limited his career after Allo Allo ended. Though he found occasional voice work in minor roles, he was never able to replicate the fame of his earlier years. He married costume designer Adele Marston in 1989, but their marriage collapsed after 8 years due to long separations and financial strain. They had 1 daughter, Lillian, with whom he remains estranged. Depression, fueled by professional rejection and loneliness, took a toll in his 50s. His father died tragically in a fire in 1997, and a failed investment wiped out much of his savings. Though still alive at 79, Sinner lives in semi-retirement in a modest flat in Bath, surviving on small pension checks and occasional fan conventions. He is reclusive, rarely seen in public, and suffers from chronic arthritis. His estate is estimated at $200,000, much diminished from his peak earnings in the 1980s. Kirsten Cook, who portrayed the daring resistance leader Michelle DuBois, was 36 when she first uttered the iconic phrase, "Listen very carefully, I shall say this only once." Her performance was fearless, sharp, and full of comedic poise. However, post-Allo Allo, Cook found herself pigeonholed into tough woman roles and faced constant rejection from casting agents. She married French director Luc Moreau in 1983, a passionate but stormy relationship that ended in divorce in 1998 after Luc was caught having an affair with a much younger actress. They had 2 sons, Pierre and Julien, neither of whom speak to her after a bitter inheritance dispute involving their grandfather's estate. A breast cancer scare in 2005 left her emotionally fragile, and a fire that destroyed her Sussex home in 2009 further pushed her into obscurity. Now 79, she lives in a quiet village in Devon, alone and largely forgotten, surrounded by memorabilia she keeps in a locked room. Once offered a memoir deal, she declined, saying she had nothing left to remember. Her estate is modest, around $300,000, largely from royalties. Richard Gibson, who embodied the rigid and delightfully bizarre Her Auto flick at 38, made his mark as the icy Gestapo officer with a limp and a deep devotion to order. Though his performance was praised, Gibson's career after Allo Allo hit a steep decline. He attempted to transition to serious dramatic roles, but was mocked in the press, his character overshadowing his attempts. He married art curator Eliza Bancroft in 1987. They had 3 children, Leo, Amanda, and Thomas, but the couple separated in 2003 amid whispers of Gibson's emotional distance and long work absences. Gibson struggled with alcoholism in the early 2000s and sought treatment twice. A fire in his childhood home in 2010, which resulted in the death of his brother, haunted him. He suffered a heart attack in 2015 and was diagnosed with early-onset Parkinson's in 2021. Now 81, Gibson lives in assisted care in Kent, occasionally writing essays and answering fan mail with shaky hands. His estate, once rumored to be substantial, has dwindled to about $150,000, with most spent on medical care and legal fees from past business failures. Rose Hill, who portrayed the cantankerous and sharp-tongued Madame Fanny La Fan at 77, had already lived a full theatrical and operatic life before Allo Allo brought her late-life fame. Her role as the bedridden, wine-sipping matriarch was hilarious yet tinged with weariness that echoed parts of her own story. Though praised for her comic timing, Hill faced ageism in the industry and struggled to find roles post-series. She had been married in the 1950s to conductor Daniel Warburton, a stormy marriage that ended when he left her for a soprano 2 decades younger. Their only daughter, Margaret, died tragically in a boating accident in 1980. Hill never recovered emotionally from that loss, often speaking to photos of Margaret on her mantle. She suffered 2 strokes in her final years, and her final public appearance was at a charity event in 2000, where she could barely speak. Rose Hill passed away on December 22, 2003, at the age of 89 from complications related to pneumonia. At the time of her death, her estate was valued at around $500,000, most of which was donated to a music scholarship fund in her daughter's name. Arthur Bostrom, who portrayed the linguistically challenged Officer Crabtree in Allo Allo, was just 27 when he joined the cast. His comical mispronunciations and oblivious nature made him a fan favorite. However, Bostrom's life after the show was filled with quiet sorrow. He struggled to escape the shadow of Crabtree, and every audition seemed to end with a request for him to say, "Good morning." Though he married playwright Diana Mercer in 1989, their relationship was turbulent. They divorced in 1997 after years of emotional distance, and failed IVF treatments left them childless and broken. His parents passed away within a year of each other in the early 2000s, sending him into a deep depression that derailed his brief return to theater. He published a book in 2016 that received poor reviews, further diminishing his confidence. He lives alone in Manchester now, having never remarried, rarely seen in public, quietly haunted by memories of laughter now lost. He is currently 70 years old, lives modestly on residuals, and his estate is estimated at $400,000, primarily in property and savings. John D. Collins, known for playing the charmingly confused flying officer Fairfax, was 41 when he entered the world of Allo Allo. Though his performance as a stranded airman hiding in a cafe brought him recognition, Collins was never able to capitalize on its success. A classically trained actor, he found himself typecast and eventually resigned to voiceover work to stay afloat. Married to opera singer Lynette Ford in 1972, their glamorous facade masked a hollow union. They had 2 sons, Benjamin and Luke, but both relationships were strained. Benjamin cut ties after a public argument in 1999. Collins' wife left him in 2005 after 33 years, exhausted by his career bitterness. In 2009, he suffered a stroke that left part of his face paralyzed, further ending any comeback hopes. Now 84, he lives in a small care facility in Wiltshire, surrounded by old scripts and photographs. His estate is modest, valued at approximately $300,000, with most spent on medical expenses and assisted living. Nicholas Franco, who portrayed Flying Officer Carstairs, brought the bumbling airman to life at the age of 34. His dry wit and stiff upper lip persona made him an essential part of the show's charm. But after the series ended, Franco faded from the public eye. A reserved man, he married science editor Melissa Drake in 1986, and together they had 3 children, Peter, Alice, and Julian. The family appeared content, but Franco battled chronic anxiety and depression exacerbated by the show's long shadow. Melissa left him in 2002 after years of emotional withdrawal. Franco briefly taught drama at a secondary school but was forced into early retirement due to worsening health. Tragedy struck in 2011 when his youngest son Julian died in a car crash, sending him into reclusion. He's now 77, living in semi-isolation near Oxford. Friends say he still watches old episodes of the show, laughing softly to himself. His estate is currently valued at around $500,000, mostly in inherited family assets. John Lewis Monsey, who portrayed the perpetually frightened and twitchy Engelbert von Smallhausen, joined the series at the age of 61. His exaggerated expressions and nervous energy made him an unforgettable presence on screen. But Monsi's off-screen life was riddled with sorrow. He had long been plagued by financial instability, having filed for bankruptcy in the late 70s. He married late, wedding wardrobe assistant Maureen Elkins in 1982, but the union was fraught with jealousy and resentment. They had one daughter, Clara, who later became estranged from both parents after a messy divorce in 1994. Monsi suffered from severe arthritis in his final years, limiting his mobility and leaving him housebound. After the show ended, he received few offers and often expressed regret for leaving theater. He died alone in August 2010 at the age of 82, the cause listed as heart failure. His estate was valued at a mere $120,000, mostly composed of memorabilia and residuals, much of which was left to his estranged daughter, though she declined the inheritance. Sue Hodge, who portrayed Mimi LeBlanc in Allo Allo, was 25 years old when she began playing the bubbly yet often scheming waitress. Her character's flirtations with the men of the cafe provided comedic relief, but Hodge's own personal life took a darker turn after the show. She struggled with typecasting, finding it difficult to land significant roles in the years following her fame. Hodge was married twice, first to a fellow actor, but the marriage was short-lived due to constant public scrutiny and her husband's infidelity. She later married a much older man, but this relationship was marked by emotional abuse, leaving her with deep scars. Though Hodge did not have children, she maintained close relationships with her co-stars, who described her as often seeking solace in their companionship. In her later years, Hodge faced financial difficulties due to a series of failed business ventures. She lives modestly in a small cottage in the countryside. At 68, Hodge remains active in charity work, but she is also often seen quietly reflecting on the life that once was. Her estate is valued at an estimated $500,000, which was largely depleted by her medical bills and living expenses. Kenneth Connor, best known for portraying Monsieur Alphonse, the quirky undertaker in Allo Allo, was 73 when he joined the cast. His character, a somewhat lovably awkward man obsessed with Edith, became a fan favorite. Off-screen, Connor's career had a steady rise, but his personal life was not as fortunate. Divorced twice, he never fully recovered from the emotional toll of his marriages. His first wife, an actress, left him for a fellow performer, causing him great heartbreak. His second marriage was marred by financial woes and constant bickering over money. Connor's relationship with his only child, a daughter, was strained, particularly after his battle with alcohol addiction, which he later acknowledged in interviews. Despite these challenges, Connor remained a beloved figure in British comedy and was known for his kindness and wit on set. However, the years leading to his passing in 1993 at the age of 75 were marked by his declining health and financial troubles. His estate, valued at around $300,000, was left largely to his daughter, though it did little to resolve the emotional rift that lingered between them. Francesca Gonshaw, who brought the character of Maria Recamier to life in Allo Allo, was just 23 when she landed the role of the sweet and loyal waitress. Maria's innocent demeanor made her one of the series' most beloved characters. However, Gonshaw's life after the show was a far cry from the innocence she portrayed. She struggled with the pressure of maintaining her public image, which led to bouts of depression. Her marriage to a high-profile producer ended after just 3 years, plagued by constant media attention and a lack of privacy. She later married a much younger man, but their relationship became toxic, marked by jealousy and emotional manipulation. Despite these challenges, Gonshaw found solace in her 2 children, a son and a daughter, though her struggle with addiction made parenting difficult. By the time she reached her 40s, Gonshaw had distanced herself from acting, choosing a quiet life away from the spotlight. At 66, she now works as a part-time artist, focusing on painting and community projects. Her estate is valued at approximately $750,000, which includes her art collections and a small home she owns in the suburbs. Who is your favorite character from Allo Allo? How does it feel knowing that some of the actors are no longer with us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you for your support.